Hello and
Ah,
welcome to 49 Days of Embodied Spiritual Practice. My name is Dr. Michael Smith, and I'll be hosting this 49-day or 7-week event. And today it is my absolute honor to be introducing you to Simone McKay, who I've known for 15 years probably. And yeah, I'm without words to describe what it's like to learn from Simone. It can be life-changing for sure. So, without any further ado, Simone, do you mind introducing yourself to people a little bit? Tell them about your background, what you do, and what you're bringing to the 49 days.
sure. So my name's Simone McKay. I am originally Canadian, but I grew up in Switzerland and I've been a bit of a nomad most of my life. So I am presently in Thailand and have been living here for a number of years and have been based in Southeast Asia for on and off for over 20 years. But spent some time in Nelson, where Michael and I know each other from. My background, I would say, is kind of an interweaving of different paths, but all relatively holistic. I started out as a social worker and crisis counselor and working in primarily with women who were affected by violence, past and present. And due to that work, really needed some good self care tools. So I came across yoga. And so I really went down the path of yoga and became a practitioner and ultimately did a teacher training and then just continued with my studies and have been pretty deeply immersed in the yogic path for, well, another 20 years or so. But along the way, have studied many holistic practices from massage to aromatherapy, and have always had a strong connection with plants and nature, thanks to my parents, especially my mom being very, very connected to nature. And so I have been working with plant medicines as well for probably the last 15 years as a very deeply personally committed to that path, and also assist and help people through that process with preparation, integration, and and have also been doing a lot of just supporting people one-on-one in that capacity, as well as a lot of somatic, what I call soul-centered coaching. So really landing our healing in the body and working with the body, but also just in the context of um, understanding and getting in touch with our soul path and what the deeper essence is, the deeper currents that, that flow through our life, and attuning and aligning with that using all of these tools. So, and I might just, the last thing I might mention is I've gone quite deep with a particular meditation tool called Yoga Nidra, which is what we're going to be exploring a bit more in this on this platform in this way.
Well, there's a couple of things there I didn't know about you. I'm even more amazed, like, oh, at the same time, well, that makes so much sense, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So here's a question or a few questions that I've been asking the co-mentors for the 49 days. So the first one is if you were to, just in a sort of intuitive way, track back through your experience of practice, regardless of the kind of practice, can you think of something that just comes to mind, comes to heart, that you would be able to describe that you could say really changed not only your experience of being here, like, in the sense of being alive, but changed your relationship with practice, with ceremony, with pretty much all of it?
Mm. Well, that's a big question. It, I feel like it's been incremental, but it's been consistent. Like, I've probably, gone undergone many, many, many practices from different traditions, and each one has held value. And I've also seen this trajectory of kind of moving from a place of very, being very physically kind of, especially with yoga practice, like very dynamic practices. And then over the years, that has slowed down and has become more internalized. So to me, it was like an avenue, a portal in was, accessing through the physical body, because that's the most like tangible and the most like we can see changes. And I think the magic of a lot of these practices is that suddenly something within starts to unfold, and then you get curious about that. And then you start to go, into quieter, more contemplative kind of practices. And that leads to deeper self-inquiry. And I think in that, when I look back at like the early days, when I really when I came out of my first yoga teacher training, I had the kind of the privilege to be able to travel after that. And I went on a big long road trip with a friend who I'd met on the training. And we did a road trip around the entire east coast of Australia.
Mm.
And I think what the practice of yoga, like just the asanas and the meditation and all of that, opened something in me that allowed me to more deeply trust the flow of life. And what happened in that trip was that we didn't plan anything. We just trusted that, okay, today we're just driving north up this road, and the most amazing magical things would happen. And, we would wake up in the middle of a market, or we would wake up in a mango orchard, or, see dolphins off the coast, or run into people who just happen to have a piece of information for us at that, at that time. And that, I think, was the first thing that really opened me to, oh, there is a deeper current that carries us if we begin to trust it. And I think a lot of these practices open us to that deeper trust, to that current that we then begin to realize that, oh, it's not just me trying to figure out my life here. It's actually that figuring out can be in service to something greater. I think that's probably been one of the most significant realizations that I had as I stepped onto this path of more conscious practice. And then it's just kind of been an incremental unfolding of that. But always, yeah, this deepening of trust in a larger intelligence that carries us forward.
Wow, that is not the answer I expected, but that's the answer I need for sure. Almost in demonstration of what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
So here's another question, and obviously go with it wherever you will. But throughout your time training and practicing and learning, have you ever committed a period of time, if it's 49 days, 100 days, 10 days, 1,000 days, whatever, to a specific practice or understanding or goal in some way? And if you have, could you describe what it was like, and probably most importantly, how that changed your relationship with having a practice, yoga, meditation,
Mm.
Gong, breath work, plant medicine, ceremony?
Yeah. I mean, certainly with plant medicine work and ceremonial work, I feel like it dropped me more into this, deeper current of trusting life, and also coming into a much deeper relationship with all our relations. It deepens a relationship within oneself, as well as then recognizing the connection that we are in with all beings of life. So that's been as a practice, I think that's been really, really significant. But when I look at actually having like a committed practice where I'm continually coming back to a practice on a regular basis, I would say that there's one particular meditation that is a Yoga Nidra that I have a recording of that is only about 11 minutes long. So, and I do it every morning, and I come back to that every morning. I've been doing it probably for the last 2 years.
Wow, 2 years,
Yeah,
man.
I mean, I wouldn't say that, it's daily, but it's definitely consistent. Like it's, several days a week, and then maybe there's a few days I don't, but I consistently come back to it. And it's a practice that kind of lands me back in like, you know, who am I beyond this kind of human expression, and the person who shows up as Simone. But then it also guides like through, it's a body rotation. It's a, so it lands my attention, my consciousness back into uh, my body. It's a rotation through all the limbs and then comes back into kind of the heart space. So for me, that's been quite a significant practice because it's simple and it's kind of all encompassing in that it lands me back in my body and my breath and reminds me of that deeper current that, and trusting in that deeper self that I was speaking about earlier.
Hmm.
Um, and I, I feel like how, I guess why I'm passionate about the Yoga Nidra is because it's a very comprehensive but quite simple approach to understanding our whole being. Like it brings us into our physical body. It guides us into different breath practices. It allows us to fully notice what thoughts, what emotions are present, without any judgment, and ability to kind of watch the commentary of the mind and to trust in the deeper intuitive process and to really land us back into like our soul essence. Like that, it encapsulates the practice. And by immersing myself in that practice, I've really learned and come to a deeper understanding of how to engage and meet all aspects of myself, and also to support others in coming into a better understanding of what makes up this being. And I mean, it's rooted in ancient yogic philosophy that views our whole body as made up of 5 bodies. So it's the 5 bodies basically.
Hmm.
um
I'm very excited to learn much more about that. Yeah, when you speak of that, you seem very, very clear about exactly what that experience is like. So that's how for me when I'm hearing people describe practice, some people like you can see they're kind of thinking of their thoughts, and then other people are feeling their experience, and I'm like, got some goosebumps there. That was definitely
uh,
in your experience. So
yes, yeah.
so last question. So I'm going to pretend if we can pretend for a moment that I'm new at all this and I'm thinking about doing this 49 days, and considering that in one context it's a rite of passage, and I guess the more mundane sense, it's getting up every day for about an hour to commit to the experience of practice and the meaning of practice and the value of practice. So if I'm brand new at this and I'm thinking of doing this, and given all of your experience, what kind of advice would you give me about preparing for it? And then maybe even more importantly, what advice would you have uh, about kind of the do's and don'ts, about the ways to really navigate this, 7 weeks every day, being really just devoted to finding out what you need to find out.
Yeah, good question. I mean, it's something that, I think I too have my, challenges about like how do you step up and commit to a practice? And on some level it's a declaration of commitment, It's like knowing that there will be days where it's like, I don't feel like doing this. I don't want to get up to do this, and knowing that those thoughts and those feelings arise and doing it anyway, and not entertaining the like, yeah, I mean, you might even watch yourself kind of try and negotiate, like, well, maybe I'll just do half an hour, I'll sleep in for an extra half hour. I'll do the last. So you start to get into negotiations about things. And I mean, the beauty of this kind of practice and commitment of 49 days is it also allows you to kind of create a bit of space around the awareness. And the first week is really set up around being aware of being aware, so that we can then actually see like the process of our thinking mind, and the how it'll start to try and pull us out of committing. So I think being aware that that's a very normal tendency of the mind, and not really, it's kind of like not engaging in the argument. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna get myself up and sit in front of my, yeah, whatever the devices that we're receiving the teachings through, and just doing it.
Mhm. Yeah, that is inevitably what is going to need to happen for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, any closing thoughts or advice for people as we're coming up on diving into doing this?
Mm. Um, I think just, knowing that there's enormous benefit on the other end, and, the benefit will come sooner than the 49 days. And that the benefits come on all levels. Like it'll be, you feel better physically, you feel more spacious, you feel like you're, starting to see other parts of yourself coming online that just overall benefit one's life in a, more balanced kind of way. And I've experienced that again and again and again with doing these kinds of practices and doing this kind of committed journey. So I think really just keeping one's focus on the benefit of what will actually sprout from this, and it'll ripple through, your life in general, your relationship to yourself, your relationship to others, and how you engage in life, and so on. So it does ripple out into the field. And
Mhm.
that to me ultimately is like um there's a form of activism in this. This kind of ties back to my social work days. It's like, if we get to the root of like, how do we come into better relationship with ourselves and find more peace within ourselves and feel better about all of that, it actually is our contribution to the greater whole. So there is that benefit as well.
And I'm doing this just because I have this intuitive urge to do this, but truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was beautifully said. So I don't want to keep you too long because we all have the many things to be doing the many things. So thank you so much for agreeing to participate and be a co-mentor in the program. And thank you so much for having a chat with me today and giving me goosebumps and speaking truth to truth because, well, that seems to be a good thing to do. Uh,
Yes, totally. I
and
super appreciate the invitation. So thank you also so much.
mhm. All right. So we'll see you just a nice, like, I don't figure the exact number of days until you'll be on for all of us, but It'll be soon enough. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, I look forward to it. Thank you too.
Okay,
Mhm.
bye.